during your morning commute.
Number one whenever news breaks during your day.
And number one whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, yo, man, how the heck are you? It is Friday, July 30th, 2021. And hallelujah, July's almost over. Frankly, hasn't this been the longest year of your life in July?
So long.
It really has been. This month has been the longest year of my life. We have absolutely a huge show for you. By the way, you do not want to miss the show on Monday. We will make a major announcement, which is to say we're giving away a smoker. We'll talk about the details of that on Monday and what you're going to get. When we get to, are we going to do 25? Are we going to do 1,000 subscribers?
Yeah.
Like, because
this smoker is going to be a legit giveaway.
Yeah, this is going to be thousands.
This isn't any of that rookie level stuff. This is
this is Big Daddy.
Yeah, this is a big
stuff
one,
and things.
Yeah.
So we are going to announce that on Monday. So be ready for that. But what a night in the NBA draft! I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. The LA Lakers won the night, but boy, the Utah Jazz did a whole heck of a lot of good things last night in the draft, Jake. And, really when I think about what the Jazz did, first of all, it's not like we say we told you so, but hey, we told you exactly what the Utah Jazz were going to do. We tweeted about 24 hours ago now that the Jazz were close on a Derrick Favors trade. We tweeted an hour before the Jazz made the pick that they were on the verge of trading that pick. They had multiple offers. They do end up trading that pick. The 30th pick was not made by the Jazz. They wind up trading it. And then at number 40, lo and behold, they get the exact right player for their system in Jared Butler. Thank you.
Yeah.
From Baylor, who is everything I think that if you're a Utah Jazz fan, how are you not thrilled with Butler from Baylor? The guy is absolutely a perfect fit as a point guard. And then this morning it comes out that the Jazz, they traded Derrick Favors. Who knew? We knew. We told you yesterday on this show and on Twitter that we thought that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Jake, I for the first time in many years, can sit here on the morning after the NBA draft, and I can confidently say the Utah Jazz crushed it.
Yeah, they absolutely crushed it. I think Justin Zanuck deserves a lot of credit. I think he did exactly what he should have done. I felt like last night the mission was not to just trade down for the sake of trading down. I felt like the mission was to evaluate the draft up until about, I don't know what you think, but probably the 20th to the 24th pick, see kind of who was taken, who was left, evaluate what you were probably going to have available to you at number 30. They did that. They made the choice that it would be better for them to trade down to number 40 and pick up, some assets. They went ahead and did that, and they still get what many people are calling a first-round talent in Jared Butler. So I'm with you. I think the Jazz crushed it. I think just in doing some homework last night on Butler and having watched him through the tournament and everything, I do think he's a great talent. I think he brings a lot to the table. I think he is somebody who can be, to be quite honest with you, I think he's somebody who, not this season, probably not even 2 seasons from now, but before the 5-year window is out, I think he is somebody who is talented enough to be a running mate with Donovan Mitchell if they develop him and if they handle this the right way. And I definitely think that Jared Butler is somebody who brings a skill set that is multi-dimensional. We talk a lot about on this show how the Jazz need guys who are athletic, who can do a lot of different things, not just one thing, like not just shoot the three or not just facilitate, but can shoot the three, facilitate, be good in transition. He can do all of those things. Now, his biggest adjustment is going to be the speed of the NBA because he does play quickly, so he's going to have to get used to that. Once that happens, once he puts some weight on and adjusts to the NBA game, I think he's going to be a great pickup, and I think they couldn't have done much better.
Well, and the only thing that worries you is he is a little limited athletically, but he is a really wanting, willing defender with great hands. He's a guy that thinks about getting out on the break. And Butler is certainly a guy that can shoot the three, and that's exactly why he went back to Baylor. And I think we saw that the fruits of those labors paid off because he worked hard on it, and it comes through. And the thing that really stands out to you is what I reported last night during the draft is that the Jazz didn't see a player at 30 that they felt like could crack their rotation and play consistent minutes this season coming up. So they traded out of that spot, and then they wind up getting a guy in Butler that I think everybody agrees when Mike Conley's hurt this year, if Mike Conley comes back, because I'm telling you, I don't think that's a slam dunk, no pun intended, by any stretch. I don't think that it's a sure thing Conley's back. But I think if Mike Conley's back, Jared Butler certainly can be that guy who fills in minutes when Mike Conley's injured. And he can be a guy who is on the floor when Mike Conley is not. And there's a lot of value in that. Because when Conley was out this year, I think you saw a lot of Band-Aids being applied to that wound for the Utah Jazz, and none of them were really effective. Whether that was Jingles, Don, they tried Jordan Clarkson briefly. That was never going to work. They needed a guy that they could hand the ball to and say, initiate the offense, sir. And that's exactly what you got in Jared Butler, because he is a guy, by the way, who also, while he's not an NBA-level defender at this very moment, I think you can develop that skill. Now, the other thing is, Jake, I really think it's important he plays Summer League.
Yeah, without a doubt.
That's up in the air right now, whether or not Jared Butler's going to Summer League with the Jazz. We'll find out in the next couple of days. But he's a guy, to me, that needs as much development as he can get. He's a guy that needs to spend as much time around Donovan Mitchell as he can get. He's a guy that needs to spend time around Dwayne Wade. You need to be around that group of players, and you get that at NBA Summer League in Vegas.
Yeah.
I think it's pivotal. It's critical that they find a way to make that happen. But as far as this trade and this pick goes, I think the Jazz absolutely crushed it.
Yeah, I don't think you could have asked for much better. And I think another thing that came out of last night is Justin Zanuck commented several things last night, but the main thing was that they did this with the intent of getting cap relief. Everything last night was, hey, handle the draft the right way and get cap relief. And I also think that the message that I got out of what Zanuck said last night is they are going to pursue Conley hard. I think that the Jazz are willing to spend money. Zanuck straight up said that Ryan Smith is willing to spend money. And that, to me, is a clear signal without saying it that he's willing to pay luxury tax. And I think that, like we were just talking about this yesterday on the show. If you didn't get a chance to listen, go back and check it out. It's on the channel. We were talking specifically about how this team really, from up until this point, has not been willing to pay luxury tax. And frankly, aren't really in that position right now. But it looks like the mentality is changing, and it looks like Ryan Smith is playing offense. That based on those comments, again, we still got to see it. It's still got to all play out, right? But based on those comments, I have a hard time believing your GM is going to come out publicly and say that you're willing to spend money, and then you don't spend money, So I do think that they are going to make a significant push to go and get Conley, and then they're going to develop Jared Butler as much as they can. Yeah,
and again, I will just say, for the first time in a decade,
yeah,
it feels good to say, hey, the Jazz crushed the draft. And we're going to get to the Suns and the Lakers, who I think made two huge trades. As far as the Utah Jazz go, now the question that lingers around is, you've cleared Derrick Favors $10 million in cap space. You lowered the value of the salary for your draft pick, which, by the way, every dollar counts when you're paying the luxury tax.
Oh, yeah, it does.
So when you lower that value, you've created some space now. And the question that has to be asked, what are you going to do about Mike Conley? How much is too much? At what point do you stop paying Mike Conley? Because I think there comes a mark in his salary where you just say, hey, this is the tipping point. We cannot go past X.
Yeah.
To me, that number is, if it were me, it'd be $15 million. But to me, if Mike Conley is going to average plus $20 million, you're out. I mean, it is to re-sign Mike Conley to a 2-year, or to match a sheet that's 2 years, and anything more than $40 million, I think is a huge mistake. Because you're in a situation where Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are both coming out of the books for significant upgrades in their salaries. Obviously, we've talked ad nauseum on this show about about Rudy's contract and the $40 million average. But right now, when you look at Mike Conley's situation, I think Mike Conley is going to be one of the premier free agent point guards in this league. And obviously with the Lakers trade, the Lakers are now probably out of that market. But I think when you look around the league, man, I think there's a lot of teams that need a point guard, Jake. And I just don't see how the Utah Jazz are going to be able to match a significant offer sheet for Mike Conley.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I mean, there's no question about that. But I think as a Jazz fan, it should make you feel a little bit better that they're at least willing to play ball, around $20 million. I mean, at least then there's some hope, But I do think that overall they're going to have to fight to get him back, and I do think some of this is going to be Mike Conley, being willing to say, okay, I'm not going to take 30 a year. I'll take 25 or 23 or whatever, like low 20s. To be a Jazz man. That dynamic is going to have to be present for the Jazz to get him. I mean, if Mike Conley is just in the mindset of, hey, I just want to get paid the most I can, then he's definitely not going to be on this roster. I just don't see any way that that's possible. But I think that the Jazz are willing to, I can't see them paying 25 a year, certainly, but I wouldn't be surprised, like 21, 22. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
And I think the thing that you have to worry about is just hanging on here. Like, I mean, make the right decision. Make the right decision in point guard. And if what that means is don't be emotional and don't attach yourself to a guy that can't help you win a championship. And I understand, listen, Jared Butler really is a significant marker as to what the Jazz think about Mike Conley. They drafted Butler because they're bringing Mike Conley back, or will do everything they can do to bring Mike Conley back. Yeah. That, to me, is why you drafted Butler. And I think he's a great player. Again, I wish he was a little quicker. I wish he had explosiveness. But, man, the things that Butler does really fit with this Utah Jazz roster and their offense and Quinn Snyder's system. And he shoots the three really well. He is an absolute beast on the offensive end.
And let's say that it's not just Conley who gets hurt. I mean, let's say alerts. Let's say that any other player on this roster goes down. Like, let's say that Bogey goes down and they don't have another solution. They could play him at the three. It's not ideal, but he could do it. I mean, that's. I'm just saying that he has a lot of flexibility in terms of where he can play. He's not so small that he can only play the one. He's certainly not big enough to play the three on a full-time basis, but my point is that, positionally there is some flexibility there as well. So, yeah, I just think that the mindset is, to me, it's plain as day. They haven't said it clearly, but to me it's plain as day. The mindset was we need to get Favors off the books because we're going to take a run at Conley. That right there is straight up plain as day, obvious as it can get. And then I think in the draft, I don't think that they had it set in stone or like already decided that they were going to trade out of the number 30 pick. I think they knew that it was a distinct possibility and that they were going to evaluate what talent was left for them at 30. And then, again, 20 to 25 in the draft, you make a decision. They decided to trade down, and everything worked out. So, again, as a Jazz fan, I think you can confidently say that you had a great night last night. Now we need to go ahead and see Butler in the summer league. Now we need to go ahead and see the development start to begin and what he's truly going to be.
Well, and what I would say is the Jazz were never going to make the 30th pick. I think they knew they were never going to make that pick. I think they knew with where their roster stood and their situation that, they are somebody that essentially is $74 million over the cap at this point. And I think even after the Favors trade, you're $74 million over the cap. I think that you have to really be smart about that. And then I look at what you have remaining, and I look at some of the roster holds you have. Obviously, Aldama is not going to be your player. You drafted to trade him. But you look at some of the other guys on this roster, and again, I just go back to, how important now is Udoka Azubuike. I mean, that's a guy that I I think now becomes a pivotal player for you because, by the way, you don't have a body behind Rudy Gobert right now.
Yeah.
So Udoka has to really develop, and he has to probably play significant minutes for you, which, by the way, would require him to be healthy, which he was not last year, which is a significant concern for a big when you have a lower body ankle injury is what it was for him. So that's something I think you're going to have to look at. And, where are you going to deploy your exception? Because that's really what the Jazz are going to have.
Yeah.
Is a taxpayer mid-level. I think you're going to have to be really smart with that. And I think you're going to have to really, again, not to belabor this point, but you're really going to have to get $5-6 million in production for $1.5 million from Elijah Hughes.
And that's the league, though, right? Like that. I think that we see that. We see that all the time in the league, and most notably, it's from guys like Mike James or Austin Rivers or those guys that we always talk to you guys about. But yeah, I think Elijah Hughes and the young guys on this team, whether Quinn likes it or not, they need to get more minutes this year. It is what it is. I mean I think. Assuming, let's just play the game where we assume that Mike Conley's on this roster, and that's what you're running out there. You're running out basically the same team you had last year, minus Derrick Favors, plus a couple of draft picks. Well, if that's the case, then I think, they need to load manage Mike Conley. There's no question about that. I mean, he cannot play, 35, 40 minutes a night the entire regular season, and you think that he's going to stay healthy the whole year. I just don't think that is realistic. So I would love to see guys like Elijah Hughes, guys like Jared Butler getting 10 minutes a night, let them get some run, let them get some game action. But overall, my point just is that if you go and you get Mike Conley, the fan base is going to expect that you're going to make a championship run. And I think we need to be very careful with those expectations because I still maintain that this team is not a championship caliber team with the current setup. I still maintain that they have to get better. There's no doubt about it. That 3-0 crap we saw last year is not going to get it done this year. It's just not. I mean, again, we're about to talk about the Lakers here in a minute, but with everything they did last night, they're going to be way better. I think Portland is still figuring out what they want to do. I think Golden State, Klay Thompson looks great, to be honest with you. I don't know how many people have been watching him, but you can go and find some practice footage of him online. He looks really good. So I just think overall you had a great night last night if you're the Jazz. Now it's time to start developing these guys so that you have depth that doesn't cost you $1 gazillion.
Yeah, so I think you're in a really good spot. Let's get some comments in here. Gabe Ledley, good morning to you. Lopes fan Gabe. He says, Eldon boys, let's go.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely right. Again.
You have a deal.
July has been the longest year of my life. July has been.
Yeah.
Ryan Buckley says Jazz got a steal. Yeah, I think they handled that. The Butler pick is really good.
Well done, man.
Dario George says, hi, guys. So Favors is out. Who do you think is going to back up Rudy Gobert, as we were just talking about? Udoka Azubuike, I think, has to step into that role.
Yeah, that's kind of a slippery slope, and this is the conversation that we're going to be having all season long once the regular season rolls back around here. I think – again, the next thing on the agenda for the Jazz is Mike Conley now. Now you got to figure out, okay, what is our offer sheet on Mike Conley going to be? Because we know the market's probably going to pay him $25 a year. He can probably go and get that. We probably are not going to want to pay $25 a year. We're probably going to want to pay $22 to $20 a year. So I think it'll be really interesting to see just how far Ryan Smith is willing to go to get Mike Conley. That's the question. How far are you willing to go to get him?
Yep. Brood Wars. Good morning to you. Good to see you, Brood Wars. He said, it's so weird hearing you guys talk up Mike Conley after the disaster that was last season. Who's talking up Mike Conley?
I'm not talking him up. I'm saying that I think they're going to go and get him. I'm not saying that I like it. I mean, I'm not changing my stance at all. I think he's an injury-riddled player who was not there for you in the biggest moments this season. I think that's who Mike Conley is. You're much higher on Mike than I am. I think you can go and get value in the league and free agency that will do more than enough at that position for this team. But that's not how they think. They want to go and get him. So I do think they're going to make a strong run at him.
And I think the thing that is very clear here is you drafted Jared Butler and traded Derrick Favors, as we've been telling you for 2 weeks since they got eliminated. You essentially now are, what would that make you? 10 million below the 13.
So Bobby Marks just tweeted The trade puts them $13 million below the luxury tax.
There you go.
And that will that puts them in a better position to make a run at
Well,
Conley.
and what that means is when you're $13 million under the luxury tax, that gives you a little more freedom. It means instead of paying $40 million for Mike Conley's contract, there's a little less there. That $13 million essentially is an upfront credit on the luxury tax.
Basically, yeah. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. Yeah.
So to me, that's why all the dots are in a line now. I mean, you look at trading Favors, drafting Jared Butler. Favors gives you cap space. Butler gives you a guy that can backstop Conley's injuries as long as he's not out for the season or has some 3-month injury. Certainly, but I look at Brood Wars. I look at Conley, and when Mike Conley's on the floor and he's healthy, he's elite. The guy is a top 5 point guard in the NBA when he's healthy. The problem is he's not healthy in the postseason. And this year he killed you. If you had Mike Conley, I think you beat the Clippers, in my opinion. Don or no Don, but you didn't, so you didn't. And my point is, I don't believe you can count on Mike Conley. And how many times do I have to say it on this show? I just don't believe you should bring Conley back.
Yeah.
I think 2021-22 should be a year of pain so that you can win 3 championships in the next 10 years. I clearly am not running the Utah Jazz. That's why I'm on YouTube and not in their war room.
Whoever came up with that shit need to be fired.
Let's see. Brylark says, morning, boys. Looking good so far. Just need to dodge Conley. I agree with that. Brood War with another says, I don't know what to make of Butler. You guys ranted all season long that the Jazz weren't athletic. Now they drafted an unathletic guard and everything's great. He's not unathletic. I wish he was more. He's not explosive. That you look at Jared Butler's profile. What you get is a guy who, what's the right way to say this? Jared Butler has the athletic ability to get to where he needs to be to score the basketball.
He's not got a 40-inch vertical or anything.
No, but no, to the point of he's not going to blow by you with his first step. He's not Russell Westbrook. He's not Russell Westbrook explosive, right?
But I don't think that they needed that guy. Would it be nice to have? Yes, absolutely. But I don't think that they needed that guy. And where they were picking in the draft, that guy wasn't going to be available to them. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that Jared Butler is somehow going to, stand over on the weak side wing and be dunking on guys all the time. But what I am saying is that this team needs to get back mindset-wise into running actual offense. We can't. The Utah Jazz have a horrible habit of getting into pick and roll the entire game. That's what they want to do. They just want to run pick and roll most of the game. And you can't do that.
And I think the thing that Jared Butler gives you is he's a guy that already is an elite shooter and scorer. He can play elite mid-range basketball, which there's real value in. And he's somebody who's got, incredible basketball IQ.
Yeah.
He's won a national championship. He was a central figure in winning a national championship. He's a guy that is just short of 6'4" when he's wearing shoes, and his wingspan, which is fingertip to fingertip, is 6'4". So his body matches his size. So he plays really well in his frame, which is important. He is a tenacious defender. He's a guy that I think, if he can grow and develop discipline, really can be a good on-ball defender.
He's pliable, man. You can do things with this guy. That's what I really like about him. He's got enough of a base in his skill set that you can mold him and make him into what you need him to be. I mean, this is a guy who, again, I encourage you guys to go and watch the game tape on him. Like, go and check it out and see what he's about. I mean, this is a guy that you will see who's really good in transition. He's a smart basketball player.
The guy can shoot.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who. When's the last time you saw the Utah Jazz run a set where they've got their shooter running the baseline to get an open look on the opposite wing? I mean, this guy can do that. He's that good.
And the thing that he gives you that right now you don't have, and again, not to keep talking about Devin Booker, because I got all the tweets yesterday about me slurping Devin Booker, but that play that Devin Booker runs that ends up with him shooting it at the free throw line for a gimme jumper where he comes out of the corner off a double stagger, that's what this guy thrives at. Jared Butler is a guy who you can run off the ball, run him on a baseline screen, run him on a stagger screen up the top, off the elbow. Like, that's what this guy gives you. And the other thing he gives you is Donovan Mitchell can take a play off. Donovan Mitchell doesn't have to be the go-to guy.
Yeah.
When Mike Conley's hurt, Jared Butler can step in. He's a guy that wore a first-round grade that they drafted at 40.
Yeah.
They saved money doing it. They traded Derrick Favors.
It's a good pick.
They created, $13 million. There's nothing not to like about what the Jazz did last night.
Yeah.
This is the first time in 10 years where I can sit here and say the Jazz crushed the draft.
Yeah.
They did everything they needed to do and more. And to me, that's what feels good this morning, talking about the Jazz. Brylark says, Kuz would have been awful in Utah, would have been an absolute waste of salary cap money. I can only say this so many times again, not to be redundant. That trade was never going to happen. So many people are like, oh, Kyle Kuzma, the dream, he's coming back. That was never going to happen. They were never involved in Kyle Kuzma trade talks.
Yeah.
I can almost tell you, I'm 99% confident the Jazz and the Lakers had phone conversations. I don't believe that there was ever serious consideration given to a Joe Ingles for Kyle Kuzma trade. That was never going to happen.
Yeah.
And to watch other Jazz media members say, oh, they're doing this, that was never going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And again, you can question who are your sources? All I can say is it's in writing. Check my Twitter. It's on this show. Go back and watch. We nailed what they were going to do this week.
Yeah.
We told you on Twitter last night. We told you on Twitter yesterday. 24 hours ago, I tweeted, the Jazz are close on a Derrick Favors trade. Last night, before an hour or so before they picked, I said the Jazz have multiple trade scenarios set up. They can trade the 30th pick if they really want to. The Jazz are going to trade that pick because they didn't see a guy at 30 that was worth that money that they felt like could crack their starting lineup this year. And they knew they were trading Derrick Favors because we told you they were close on a Derrick Favors trade.
Yeah.
They were never in the conversation to be involved with Kyle Kuzma. He was either going to go to Sacramento for Buddy Hield, and then out of nowhere, he winds up in Washington for Russell Westbrook in a trade that came together very, very quickly. So Kyle Kuzma was never coming to the Jazz. It just was not happen. Leon Drew and Real. I didn't get that right. Anyone else think Kuzma would have been a nice fit for Utah? Read a lot of rumors about him possibly coming. No. They would have. Okay, so here's the issue with Kyle Kuzma.
Who the f*** is that guy?
Here's the issue with Kyle Kuzma, right? Kyle Kuzma is a really good athlete, but he's not a really good basketball player. In terms of where a championship caliber team is, why if he is a really good fit for the Jazz, why are the Lakers trying to trade him? Mm-hmm. You have to ask yourself that question. And this is the thing, if you're a Laker fan, and I know we have a lot of Laker fans that listen to the show, that's the biggest concern you have about Russell Westbrook. The only MVP traded 4 straight seasons. It's never happened before until right now with Russell Westbrook. And the reason is he's not a great teammate. He's hard to get along with, right? He's Chris Paul. He's hard to play with. I look at Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma doesn't shoot the 3 consistently. Kyle Kuzma doesn't attack the basket consistently. Kyle Kuzma does some things consistently, like he's in the wrong spot consistently. He's a foot out of the corner when he should be 6 inches out of the corner. And what does that do? That creates less space for LeBron James, right? His things like the Lakers were frustrated that Kyle Kuzma didn't consistently set good picks to free up space. And when he did set picks, he always popped out. Sometimes they need him to run through, and he'd always pop out. So what would happen? You'd see those awkward moments where Anthony Davis and Kyle Kuzma were standing right next to each other, which is never supposed to happen in their offense. Why do you think the Lakers have completely remade their coaching staff? Because they want new. They want fresh. They're going to go in a different direction. And with the LA Lakers, here's something else to chew on. Stylistically, LeBron James is going to have to change his game to play with Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis. And the question is, who do they go with inside the paint? The LA Lakers don't have a lot of flexibility in cap, and they don't have a center on the roster now. So ask yourself, what are they going to do here? Because they won a championship with guys like JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, who were flexible, and you only needed to play them between 10 and 20 minutes a game. Then you went and got Andre Drummond because you lost those guys, and it wasn't the same fit. Anthony Davis is not a 5, he's a 4. So then that brings you back to the Kyle Kuzma conversation. Kyle Kuzma would have been a bad fit in Utah.
Yeah.
Because he would have been a guy, and I don't know if you agree, but Kyle Kuzma would have been a guy that would have shot too much. He would have taken touches away from Don, which, by the way, is already an issue on this team.
Yeah.
And there's only so many touches to go around. Kyle Kuzma is going to a place where he can be an alpha.
Yeah.
You're going to be the number 2 option on that team in all likelihood.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to be 4th on this team. He's certainly not going to be before Conley, Don, or Bogey. He was probably going to be number 4 on this team, and that's just not going to develop him.
Yeah, that's not what he needs. So I think he found a great landing spot.
Leon, excuse me. Leon says, what do you think of James Harden's career-ending rule changes going into effect next season to stop foul call baiting? Well, I think James Harden completely made himself over in Brooklyn. And so the flopping stuff that we saw in the playoffs, that's why this rule is going into effect.
Yeah.
I think that's for a different show, frankly, but I actually like that rule a lot. You've got to stop the flopping and the fake foul calling.
Yeah. It changes games.
You've got to stop it. Manir Aboraya.
Yeah.
Manir. Do you think that Utah still has another move to do? They have to make another move.
Yeah.
One, the next move is Mike Conley. And then you have to figure out some depth on this team. Because I actually think there's a good chance there's another trade coming. And I don't think you're going to know until probably Tuesday or Wednesday. When does Mike Conley sign an offer sheet? Does Mike Conley go out to free agency? Man, I'd have to think he does.
Why wouldn't he?
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? You're selling you're probably...
Unless he wants to come back. Unless that's where his mind is at. That would be the only thing that would be the only thing that would, keep him from hitting free agency. What?
The Air Max Bacon is available. Not in a 15.
You already have it.
Well, I'd like to be able to sell it, but anyway. And you don't want the bacon?
No, I'm good.
Oh, my God, the bacon's such a good shoe. Anyway, the point is, listen, friends. Yeah, I think the Jazz have another move to make. Let's talk Lakers and Suns real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like the Russell Westbrook trade?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really helps LeBron. I think LeBron is a guy who's coming to the end of his career here, and the expectations haven't changed. It's championship or bust. And so I think that LeBron needs some help overall on the floor. And I think Russell Westbrook is a guy who struggles to shoot, but man, does he get you a lot of easy buckets in transition. And I think, LeBron, this allows LeBron to operate a little bit more. It gives him more space on the floor. You were just talking about how the Lakers were frustrated with Kuzma and him, eating space. Well, fact is you cannot give Russell Westbrook space. You can't allow him to just have a free run at the basket. You have to play him tight, and that opens up the floor. And so I think I could easily see a scenario where Westbrook is playing point. He's bringing the ball up. You've got LeBron on one side, AD on the other, surrounded by 2 role players. And to me, that is a great starting 5 that gives you a lot of different ways to win. The question is going to be defense. Can Russell Westbrook continue to play a high level of defense so that they can stay in games? Because I think that was really the issue. This past season, like when they won the championship, their defense was elite. They had amazing defense. They were very strong, very good as a team as well. So I just think that this is not just about offense. I also think they've got to figure out the chemistry on defense and what that looks like. But as long as Westbrook, isn't super selfish, as long as he's willing to play within the offense, I think that they will be fine. I like it.
My issue in this trade is Russell Westbrook. This is the problem. Now, this is either an A+ or a D.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because Russell Westbrook's going to have to make himself over. He's going to have to do what James Harden did in Brooklyn, which is change the way he plays stylistically and do some things that he's never been comfortable doing. And when I say do those things, I mean not being the number 1 option, not being the alpha dog on a basketball team is not generally who Russell Westbrook has been. And if you look at the deal that sent Russell Westbrook to Houston, that deal worked out very well for OKC and not so well for the Houston Rockets, who wound up getting blown out by, I want to say, the Lakers. And Russell Westbrook wound up getting moved to Washington, and James Harden went to Brooklyn. A big part of that problem was Russell Westbrook. Now, James Harden wore some of that, but, you look at the trade that wound up with Westbrook going to Washington, and, well, it was John Wall to Houston and Russell Westbrook to Washington. One malcontent for another. And now, again, the Washington Wizards have decided that they're going to stick with Bradley Beal instead of Russell Westbrook. And there were a ton of trade suitors for Brad Beal, including the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the Wizards are like, yeah, we want to keep you, man. Do you want to be here? And Beal said, yeah. And my guess is Beal said, let's make some roster changes.
Yeah.
And that roster change was Russell Westbrook. And the thing that really stands out for you is that he is not a guy, Russell Westbrook, who will give you his all if you're not going to win a championship.
Yeah.
That's really concerning because nothing's guaranteed in this league. The other thing I think that really stands out to you is that, you know what, you have to get production from West, but he can't score 35 points a game.
No.
He can't be triple-double West, right? Like, and this is one of those things I think that he's going to have to change. He can't be a guy that is 30, 10 and 10.
I think the 10 and 10 stays. He needs to be 20, 10 and 10, though.
I think that, yes, you would like to see him rebound.
Yeah.
But LeBron and AD are primarily the guys that rebound.
Yeah.
What you need from Russ is you need him to either become that guy so LeBron can get out and run.
Mm-hmm.
You just need him to understand his role.
Yeah.
And that's been something that Russ has struggled with. And you know what? Like, I look at the way that he played the last month of the season for the Wizards as they were trying to get in. And he's a guy that turned into a guy that the Lakers really think they can use. 20, 14 assists, and 14 rebounds.
Yeah.
Now, you're not going to get those numbers out of him on the Lakers because you're going to have AD and LeBron. You didn't have a healthy Bradley Beal. I think that if Russell Westbrook is really effective, he's more of a 12 to 15-point guy who gives you 15 and 15.
Yeah.
That's the triple-double you need from him. Is he willing and able to do that? Well, if he is, they're going to win a championship.
And does Anthony Davis stay healthy? Because that's another question, too.
And the other thing that he does, that Westbrook does for the Lakers, is he gives them a third elite player. Because you can say a lot of things about Russ. Is he insane? Probably. Is he a good teammate? No. Is he a really good basketball player? Abso-fucking-lutely he is. Like that guy. And I mean, Russell Westbrook can play basketball.
Yes.
It's his hometown.
Yes.
He told them he wanted to go to the Lakers.
Yeah.
The Lakers agreed. Now you're at home playing for a championship. Now who do you become?
This is your last best chance to win a championship if you're Russell Westbrook.
Yeah. And what does he look like in the half court? I think that's a huge question here. What does Russell Westbrook look like? How does he operate in the half court?
He brings the ball up. I mean, that's what his role is going to be, initiate the offense. And then I think that you're going to see them run a lot of cuts for him. He's a physical player. He is a guy who wants to out-athlete you. So he's not going to take you off, the dribble and handle and all that. I think that can't be a thing. I think he needs to be the guy who brings it up, goes to the weak side corner, maybe cuts on the weak side, like that kind of a thing. And he's going to play a lot of transition basketball. He is. And that's a huge deal for them.
And here's the other thing you got to consider. He doesn't make threes in volume. And you gave up in this deal, let's not forget, as much maligned as Kyle Kuzma is, nobody on the Lakers made more threes last year than Kyle Kuzma. And by the way, who was number 2 last year? Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They're both gone now. So the only guy who made 100 threes last year on the Lakers that's still on the roster is LeBron James. So you're not counting on Russell Westbrook to shoot three. I mean, that's why you had Davis Bertans on the floor with Russell Westbrook. And by the way, when Bertans and Westbrook played together last year, the Wizards' efficiency was much higher. When Westbrook was on the floor without him, his efficiency was much lower.
Yeah.
They don't have a knockdown three-point shooter in LA.
They'll change that.
But who does that even look like?
I don't know. They're going to have to go and find that. I don't know right now off the top of my head, but they have got to go and address that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, I just think that you have a guy that can score, but he can't shoot. I mean, overall, I want to say that Russell Westbrook, and I should probably look that number up. Overall, my guess is that Russell Westbrook's somewhere in the 40% overall shooting.
Probably.
That's not very good.
Yeah.
That's why Buddy Hield was so attractive. Now, the question is, and there's a lot of people who think that if they can do a Dennis Schroeder sign and trade, that Buddy Hield is still in consideration for the LA Lakers. And I think now, if you're Dennis Schroeder, you hold all the cards with the Lakers because they're not bringing you back. You know that. The Lakers are not going to re-sign Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah.
So that contract that he turned down, what was it, $84 million deal that Schroeder left on the table last year? Well, now is when you get paid that money. Because my guess is if he does a sign and trade with the Lakers, it's going to have to be in the $100 million mark. And to me, the Lakers now have to pay that tax. And they're going to have to hope that Schroeder will do a sign and trade. Because they're going to re-sign Talon Horton-Tucker. I mean, they have bird rights on him. It would be shocking. They've already put a sheet out on him. It'd be shocking if they didn't re-sign him and bring him back to this team. He's a 20-year-old kid.
Really capable.
That's shown a lot of upside. So I'd be really surprised if they did not bring him back. But you know what? I don't know how to mark this trade for the Lakers. Frankly, I feel like right now I'd probably hang a C on it and say, ask me, let's talk in January, February.
Yeah, you have to see how it plays out. I mean, I think it's a little more favorable than a C. I mean, I think that you got a really elite player in the NBA. Are there some question marks? Absolutely. But you're counting on LeBron James to figure that out and iron out the details. I mean, that's really what you're doing here.
My feeling is if you don't have a knockdown shooter, you should have gone and gotten Buddy Hield instead of Russell Westbrook. That's just my opinion. I think that Buddy Hield fills a very clear need for the Lakers. He's a guy that can handle a little bit, and my God, he knocks down the three.
Yeah.
And if you're going to play with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, you need a guy that can shoot the three. And they don't have that. That's a huge question. Now, as far as the Wizards go, forget it. This is an unbelievable trade.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that they set themselves up, they not only didn't lose all their talent in free agency, they become a mid-tier Eastern Conference team right now with this deal and with a refreshed Bradley Beal. I think it's a real break. He didn't play in the Olympics.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he contracted COVID. But I think the rest is going to help him. He is going to rebuild his body. And I think Bradley Beal is going to be 100% coming into training camp. He's going to have new money on the table. And I think he's going to be re-energized, and he's going to lead the league in scoring again. And so the question is, will Kyle Kuzma knock down the three? The question is, can Kentavious Caldwell-Pope be counted on as a number one option? Because he's going to need to be at times for the Wizards. But I love this trade. I think that, you look at the fact that, Washington has a need at point guard because they lost Westbrook, and KCP's not an on-ball point guard. But, I mean, you can fill that role, right? I mean, you have, you have guys like Ish Smith or Raul Neto, who I actually thought Neto played really well for Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be Ish Smith, honestly. I mean, I think Ish Smith's handle is super underrated, and people don't really know about him. But overall, I just think that this trade for the Wizards is awesome. You keep Beal. He is going to be rested, as you said, and I think hopefully you see the benefits of developing Kyle Kuzma. Hopefully that works out for you, because if it does, you're going to be a decent team.
And by the way, don't be surprised if Raul Neto comes to camp with the Jazz. I mean, he's a guy that they're familiar with. Obviously, he was here in the past. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of player at that kind of money. Now, I think he probably may have earned himself more money with the way he played in Washington, but that's the kind of guy that you're going to wind up as a backup point guard on this team. But I think Washington, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, they did a good job.
No-brainer for them. Ryan Buckley says Teague could also be a sleeper too. He has a nice mid-range game, something the Jazz lack. I actually don't think. Do you? I don't think the Jazz lack mid-range. I mean, Don's an elite mid-range player already.
Yeah, the problem is, though, that they don't like to play mid-range. They have way too many guys who want to just get three happy, and Don goes away from that.
Bro, this is a team that routinely pulls up the fast break to shoot threes.
Yeah, you have a wide-open layup. I mean, come on.
Right,
guy.
they're not. That's a good. That actually might be a good point, Ryan. I think, more than, now that you say that, I don't know that they lack players who can score in the mid-range. I think they lack players who want to score in the mid-range.
It's a want-to thing, Yeah,
absolutely. I think it is. It's interesting. Good luck getting Westbrook to change. Yeah, I agree with that. Leon also says Russ will be a disaster in LA. His stats are forced and only mean anything on paper. He makes terrible decisions. Conley would be a perfect fit for the Lakers. My God. And
but
the Lakers
the thing,
and Clippers are the two of the teams that are really heavily. The Lakers, Clippers, and I actually still think I hear a lot of Mike Conley Mavericks talk too.
Yeah.
And they've got money to spend.
Here's the thing, though. I don't disagree with all you guys hating on Westbrook. I mean, he's never been somebody who's been a team guy, but he's also never played with LeBron James as a Los Angeles Laker.
Well, and he went home. I mean, LA's home for Russell Westbrook. He
needs to win a championship.
Yeah,
dude.
he played at UCLA. Winning a championship in LA for Russell Westbrook would be the penultimate point of his career.
That would finish up his career and allow him to ride off into the sunset.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of belief that he will adjust his game. Now, he's always going to be an alpha dog. I mean, that's just the way his mindset is. But I don't think that's a bad thing on this team because I think you're going to see load management on LeBron James is going to be significant.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot of Westbrook and Anthony Davis, frankly. And I think they have to figure out what to do with their mid-level. And I think the Lakers, we already know they're going to pay the luxury tax. It's just a matter of who they spend that mid-level on. Because you also have to remember that this takes them out of Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
I don't know. What does this do for them in DeMar DeRozan? It's another LA guy that I think would like to play in LA.
Yeah, you got to get shooting. You have to get shooting now.
Well, now they're also, maybe they should just trade for the entire Spurs roster because they're also being linked to Rudy Gay, who I think could be a perfect fit for them. The guy knocks the three down.
He does. Yeah. They should
so
go and try and get Buddy. That's what they should try to do. That's the right thing to do. But
yeah, I think it's one of those things where you have to decide, and again, what is your relationship with Dennis Schroeder like? I mean, Dennis Schroeder killed you last year, late in the season. He was so vital early and mid.
He wants his money.
Then he fell apart.
That's all he wants is money.
I'm curious what he's willing to do. Like, I mean, is he willing to? Because the other thing with a sign and trade, and this is the Conley thing as well, you have to. If you're Dennis Schroeder, somebody has to be willing to pay you $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they sign you and trade you, there's somebody's going to pay you $100 million.
Right.
You're probably not a $100 million player. I mean, you're probably a $70, $80 million player.
I think it depends. Depends who you're asking. It's an eye of the beholder thing.
Yeah. They need to find a way to sign and trade Dennis Schroeder so that they can find a shooter, a premier, legitimate three-point shooter.
Yes.
It's the only thing the Lakers lack. They're going to be really good defensively. They're going to bring. My guess is that Caruso comes back once he's out of prison. I kid.
Wow.
Well, you bring illegal items through TSA checkpoints, you tend to wind up in jail.
If you guys ever want to kick it, we'll flow.
Yeah, in prison. But my point is, I mean, you're going to re-sign Caruso. You're going to fill out that roster, well, because you have to. But it'll be interesting to see who they do that with and how they do it with. And I think, by the way, I also think the Suns, a lot of people are poo-pooing Landry Shamet.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually really like the Landry Shamet deal for the Suns. I mean, Javon Carter was not an on-floor contributor.
No.
But boy, he was a glue guy in that locker room. And I think you saw everybody on this roster tweeting at him. And you saw Mikal Bridges tweeting love at Javon Carter.
Mm-hmm.
But they give up their first round pick in Javon Carter to get Landry Shamet. And I think it's a good deal. The question in Phoenix, what are you going to do with Chris Paul? Is Chris Paul going to opt out? Well, he's not opting out to go to the Lakers now, which is where everybody thought he was going.
Mm-hmm.
That's not happening. Unless you sign and trade. And the question is, and this was talked about last night. I don't think it works, but do you sign and trade him to the Lakers to be their point guard and have Russ be your 2, LeBron's your 3-4, and AD plays your big spot? Because as we've talked about, you need mobile athletic bigs.
I mean, if that can happen, I'm sure that'd be great. But at the end of the day, I don't see the Suns signing and trading Chris Paul to the Lakers, dude. I mean, again, remember, just like I say this with the Jazz all the time, the Lakers are going to be a juggernaut already. Why would you make them better? Why would you do them that favor? And I think that Chris Paul is, again, he's in it for the money. I that's what I think. And so he's going to hit free agency. He wants a 3-year, $100 million deal. and that's what it is. So you have to figure that out.
Yeah, and don't forget that on top of Paul, you have DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges who are eligible for extensions, and
Yep.
we just keep printing money over here. The point is,
Yeah.
we got to talk about side hustles in a minute. The point is, I
Better
think
hurry up.
you just have a lot of questions in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just to recap, I think the Jazz crushed it. I really do. I mean, I think they did really, really well. Brylark says Russ will be forced to adjust by LeBron. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think that was a really good deal. Jazz crushed it. Lakers crushed it. And I think a lot of other teams got better last night.
Yeah, we don't really have a team last night who messed it up. There was nobody who really made a huge mistake.
I agree. By the way, none of this matters very much because free agency starts on Monday.
Yeah.
So all those deals that are going to get announced Sunday night at 12:01, your Woj bombs are going to go crazy. It'll be interesting to see what point guards end up where. Who's going to opt in? Who's going to opt out? Who's going to make money? Who's not going to make money? It's going to be really interesting. That's why when you saw Montrez Harrell opt in, you knew the Lakers had a trade done.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens, and I think it'll be fun. Side hustles.
Yeah.
So we told you that we were working on a big side hustle. Well, we were buying a condo at the Canyons in Park City. That was our side hustle. And it was a huge money-making deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it was costing us six figures. We were about $100,000 into that. And all of a sudden yesterday or 2 days ago, the deal fell apart.
This is a code 10 abort.
Some of the terms changed. And so we wound up, burning that deal to the ground, got our money back. And now we're at ground zero, which is, and I think one of the things that I find so interesting about being, I don't know if I'd call myself an entrepreneur, but one of the things that's so interesting about working side hustles is your tolerance for pain.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's ultimately going to determine your success, right? So
it's a price to be paid.
I have a high pain tolerance, and I am not risk averse. Mrs. Monty is quite the opposite. She has a very low pain tolerance, and she is, I wouldn't say she's risk averse. She just does not court risk.
This is a code 10 abort.
And I think when you're trying to build, when you're trying to build wealth and you're doing things like, you're getting involved in six-figure real estate deals where there's $100,000 in cash going out of your pocket, that was tough to wire that money. I'm not going to lie. We have been wiring money like ain't nobody business. But when you're doing those deals, it just requires due diligence, and you have to surround yourself with people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And when you don't like the way things are going, you have to be willing to walk away from it. And I think that's the hardest thing for me is I really wanted this to work, and it just didn't work.
Yeah. I mean, it just didn't work out. It's fine. I mean, again, I think, the perspective has to be that, it's just like it is in sales, right? I mean, no means next opportunity, not no, So I just think at the end of the day, you have to continue to keep trying to find what it is. You have to keep probing, as I like to say. You have to keep, searching and hunting. I mean, it's part of the process.
Well, and, when you're in real estate, the way that we have a lot of real estate experience, we've just happened to do a lot of real estate. And so this side hustle, again, and Justin Salas said, wait, did I miss the side hustle info? We were buying a condo at the Canyons in Park City, which is a ski resort, an income property. And we didn't wind up executing it, and unfortunately. So now the rebound is we're going to have to find, and we legit can buy 2 units for what we were doing in this one, because we couldn't go conventional, and there was just all this.
It was a racket
stuff.
Yeah, it was a racket.
And so now we're going to wind up buying investment property in Salt Lake City, probably up by the U, not probably up by the U. And we'll see if we can find a unit that we like. We'd like to do that, obviously, as soon as possible, because it's football season, and you have winter season coming, and there's a lot of people who prefer not to stay in Park City. Like, so time is of the essence. That was the other thing with this deal in Park City is timing was perfect. Purchase price was perfect.
Yeah.
This one, not so perfect.
Yeah.
So
they make it difficult. So they're not going to get it.
We wound up not doing it. But,
yeah.
It's that or, there's some interesting things globally, real estate-wise, units you can get into. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll keep you updated.
Yeah.
But we are, like our Amazon. Amazon's so funny. Remind me off air, because on air, I'm sorry. You hate me for this. Remind me off air. Ask me about Amazon FBA. So we do Amazon FBA on the side. And like we've had, one of the items that we sell on Amazon is Axe body spray.
Yeah.
And it has been sitting. And then and it's been sitting for like 6, 7, 8 weeks. All of a sudden yesterday we sold 5 units and we've already sold 2 units this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just funny the way Amazon FBA works.
Yeah.
And this is FBM because we actually have to do the shipping on it. But I mean, there's side hustles out there where you can make money. If you're not trying to make money on the internet, like I work 40 hours a week. I work a full-time job. I work out every day. We do this radio show every day or this podcast, whatever you want to call it.
We do a lot, bro.
We work a lot.
A lot.
Gabe Ledley says, screw Park City, more shoe money. Well, there's an Air Jordan 12 on the wall.
Shoes and car parts, bro. Shoes and car parts.
Yeah. And the good news is, man. Yes. Okay. So people are one of the comments, Marcus wants to know if we're still debt free. Well, yeah, 100% debt free.
Yes.
One of the reasons we moved back to Salt Lake is we sold our house in Phoenix, and some other things worked out. We have been able to get debt free, and
and we work our ass off every day, so we get paid. So
yeah, when you earn, the thing is, and this is the thing that I think a lot of people don't embrace, and I would encourage you to embrace this. Your 9 to 5 should be a portal or an avenue to not working a 9 to 5. I'm very passionate about the theory of, that your paycheck is a drug that your employer gives you to make you forget about your dreams. Because when you work a 9 to 5, I'm not rich by American standards. I make incredible money at Yelp. And it's stressful. It's hard. I'm really good at what I do. I'm not being arrogant. That's just a fact. I'm a top producer at Yelp. I make really good money. I don't want to work at Yelp anymore. If I didn't have to work another day at Yelp, I would be thrilled. So I'm taking the incredible money I make at Yelp and I'm trying to grow side hustles. And you know what? Real estate is involved in all of them, frankly. I mean, we've tried to open a store here in Utah, but retail space is incredibly overpriced right now. And I'm just not willing to risk my future to overpay for somebody's retail space. The Amazon thing has been probably a break-even proposition, but I'm ready to move on to the next thing. We're working on a clothing line that some of us are more passionate about than others. Like this, buying real estate, flipping houses. There's a real conversation that we're going to have this weekend about buying investment property versus flipping a house.
Yeah.
Because I'm all in on flipping a house. Like I've done a bunch of house flipping. You can make great money in it.
Yeah.
You can take $2 and turn it into $1 million in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You just have to know what you're doing, and I happen to have experience with that.
Mm-hmm.
There's just all these things. But I'm telling you right now, if you're making good money and you're sitting on your hands and you're like, oh yeah, but I got a 401k, bro. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge right now for people, I think, is to get to the making good money stage. That's the challenge right now, I feel like.
Yeah, Gabe Levely said, get the property up so I have a place to rent when I come for an ASU game. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Justin Salas says, hell yeah, retail arbitrage for the win. Going to make an extra $30K this year.
Yeah.
And you know what? We did pretty well on retail. I'm sold out at Amazon right now. The issue for us on retail arbitrage was the time that it takes. Retail arbitrage was a learning experience. We got off on, there's a process called getting ungated, and I've made a ton of money on Barbie. I've made a ton of money on,
a lot of different
Q-tips. Q-tips.
Yeah.
There's real value in that. But it's a time vampire, depending on how you do it.
Yeah.
FBM, yes, absolutely. 3 people are asking if we make money on Axe body spray. Yes.
Yes, we do.
People buy Axe body spray like it's going out of style, man.
You got to do it in volume, though.
Yeah, you can't spend $50 on Axe because you're going to make $52, right? You're going to get $2 in profit on that. The issue is always going to be the money that you can make, Justin, as you're well aware of that. Justin Salas said, yeah, I spent a ton of time on it for sure, because you got to package it, you got to ship it to Amazon, you got to label it, you got to.
If we didn't do this show, I think it would be much more attainable to do arbitrage. But we just do so much. There's only so many hours in the day for us, and you're talking about, it's not like we get a salary at Yelp. I mean, we do, but that's not how we make the money we make. No, I mean, we're in a performance-based business.
Just sold more Axe on Amazon.
Yeah, well, it's not rocket science, dude. When it's priced right, it moves. I mean, I don't know why. Like, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but it's very simple. The issue with FBM and FBA is what you can sell something for, and the fee structure with Amazon. So it's like, it's not surprising. Once stuff starts to move and you put it at the low price, it moves very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's why when you have Axe body spray that we bought, that we both bought, we're both in on that money-wise, once it starts moving, it's like, all right, burn through it, move it. Like, that's what you have to do on Amazon. You can't be greedy.
Yeah, and I think that's the price that you pay. But
yeah.
I mean, listen, I think a lot of people are.
And we've also talked about doing more content on YouTube on the weekends, and like we're talking about that as well.
Conejo, Dario George says, who won the Xbox in the end?
Do it.
Our guy Corey Grocock won the Xbox.
Corey Grocock.
We'll be sending that out this weekend in Australia. We're going to have a major announcement for our 2,500th subscriber coming on Monday. We continue to do things. You guys support the show incredibly well. So that's why we do so many giveaways. We are not paid for this show. We earn a fraction of money on this show. We earn
pennies.
So anytime we do a giveaway, an Xbox, a PS5, the smoker we're going to announce on Monday.
That comes out of the money tree in the backyard.
Yeah, I mean, it cost me a pair of shoes, man. Anyway, Ashton Kutcher probably buying all your Axe body spray.
Probably.
Giggity
Honestly,
says, yeah, probably. Justin South says, just a means to an end for all that money goes to save for running a shoe store, correct? Casey Finlinson says, I love the idea that salary is a drug that keeps you from your dreams. It's a hard drug to break from. And Franz Sabubu said, how do you get away from your salary? Well, what you have to do is the first thing you have to do is set yourself up financially. And this is probably a different show, and we only got like 5 minutes to go here. But what I would tell you is that if you truly want to stop drawing a paycheck, you got to do a couple of things. You got to get debt free. You have to have financial freedom, because if you're paying thousands of dollars a month in credit card debt, A, it's a drag on you mentally, and B, it sucks up your side hustle money. Mm-hmm. You got to become debt free. When I say debt free, I have a mortgage and 2 car payments. That's it. I have no credit card debt. I don't owe anybody anything.
Student loans.
Nothing. Like my wife has a small student loan thing, but we have, other than our mortgage, our cars, we have no debt. We have no revolving. We have no retail. Nothing. All the money we make goes into our bank account and then goes to build other things. So that's where you start. The other thing is you got to find a job that you can deal with, because it is really difficult. Man, it's difficult to go to work every day when you're thinking about something else or you hate that job. So you're never going to build a side hustle hating the job that pays your 9 to 5. You're not.
Yeah.
And you have to have the mental ability to understand that your 9 to 5 is a means to an end.
Yeah.
That's it. So that 9 to 5 is critical. If you're going to build a side hustle, the 9 to 5 has to be solid.
And you have to be willing to get uncomfortable and learn skills to get a better 9 to 5, because I think, the young 20-something who listens to this show, who is working a lower end job because it's one of their first jobs, that's obviously going to be a much longer process to get to
Yes.
where we're getting to. So I think you have to be willing. I'm not saying you got to go to college. I didn't go to college really at all. One semester, and yet we're still here. So that just says everything you need to know is on the internet, and everybody has a smartphone. So
Get
what's
on the
your
interwebs.
excuse?
Yeah. Casey says DIY shows are big. You should do your house flipping on YouTube. I loved keeping up with what you guys were doing in Arizona when you used to do that. Yeah, I mean, our $1 million
If we flip
stuff.
houses, we will do that.
Yeah, our $1 million flip stuff in Scottsdale was amazing content. People loved it.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Watch Woodstock 99 on HBO Max this weekend. I remember hearing about it as a senior in high school, but being in Utah, I had no idea. Correct. People just don't want to compromise. We got a smaller house and didn't change our car, but that allowed us to buy 2 small houses for rent, and we are working on a side project on a fam with a partner. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying.
That's what it's about.
That's what it's all about, man.
You have to understand that there are stages of your wealth. So you getting debt-free is one stage, and I've learned that the hard way. I mean, I carried credit card debt for a long time, and it cost me sleep at night. It cost me
a lot.
I can remember times, in the not-too-distant past where I wondered, hey, are we going to make our mortgage payment on time this month? I never missed it, never got close to missing it, but I thought about it. We were in business with the wrong people in certain trades, and real estate's the one thing my wife said to me yesterday. Real estate's the one thing we've made money on. And that's right. We unfortunately, we didn't make the money on our $1 million flip, but our investor made $300,000 on that flip.
Mm-hmm.
Because what talks?
Money.
Money talks. And when you have money, you can make more money. When you don't have money, it's very difficult to make money.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult. Hey. All right, play the music. Show's over. We're a little short today because we have, it's Eldom, the last day of the month at Yelp. So we got to go kick some ass. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We're going to be on that Traeger ass. It's going to be lit. We're making pizza tonight. Mrs. Monty has some wild ingredient ideas for pizza tonight. And then we got to figure out what's going on the Traeger this weekend.
Yeah.
Something white meat. Yeah. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, The Monty Show. Monty, The Monty Show. For me, Jake is SLC Supercars. Thank you so much for being here. We couldn't do what we do without you. Have an amazing weekend. Until August, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.